The instant I heard the sirens, my stomach sank. Seconds later, two cruisers tore down my street, lights strobing like someone had been shot. I stood in my own driveway with my hands slightly raised, my phone still recording, while Valerie Monroe, our infamous HOA president in her bright pink blazer, shrieked at the officers. "That's him. Arrest him. He threatened me." Behind me, my Lamborghini Urus flashed in the sun. Flawless, immaculate, and apparently worth dialing 911 over. Half an hour earlier, I'd been enjoying a quiet Saturday morning polishing my dream car. Now I was being treated like a criminal because I wouldn't sell it for $1. Neighbors stared from behind blinds and cracked doors while Valerie kept shouting, and it hit me. This wasn't really about a car. This was about power, ego, and how far one HOA Karen would go to get her way. Before I get to how the day went off the rails, drop your city and local time in the comments. I like seeing where everyone's watching from. And if you're into wild HOA drama and revenge stories, subscribe because this one earns it. It started as a perfect Saturday. Sunlight hit just right, the air still clean from mountain rain, and everything felt calm enough to believe people could be reasonable. I had music low, a microfiber towel in hand, ceramic detailer ready. My metallic gold Lamborghini Urus sat in the driveway like a sculpture. My peace, my therapy, my reward after 15 years building my cybersecurity company from nothing. Then I heard the sound that always ruins my peace. Valerie Monroe's sharp, clipped voice. "Good morning, Mr. Cole," she called, syrupy sweet in that way only HOA presidents can pull off. I looked up from the rim and felt the first pulse of a headache. Valerie stood at the end of my driveway in her hot pink blazer, clipboard tucked to her chest, oversized sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. Next to her was her son Brandon, 19, bored, and welded to his phone. "Morning, Valerie," I said carefully, standing. "Something wrong?" "Oh, no." She drifted closer. "Brandon and I were just out for a walk. He's been absolutely obsessed with your car." She gave the Urus an exaggerated scan. "It's flashy." "Thanks," I said, already knowing where this was headed. Brandon finally glanced up. "Mom, that's the one I told you about. The twin-turbo V8. Valerie's smile tightened. "Yes, honey. I know." Then she looked at me like we were discussing a toaster. "His birthday's next month, and I promised him something special. So tell me, Ethan, what's your asking price?" I blinked, half laughing because I thought she had to be kidding. "It's not for sale." She didn't laugh back. Instead, she pulled out a glossy checkbook. "Everything is for sale for the right price. 20,000. Cash." My laugh evaporated. "Ma'am, this car is nearly 300,000 before customization." She waved it off like I'd mentioned the cost of a latte. "But it's used. You've had it, 6 months? 25 is generous." "Generous," I repeated, stunned. Her eyes narrowed. "Everything depreciates, Mr. Cole. Even Lamborghinis." I set the towel down slowly, keeping my voice level. "It's not for sale. At any price." For a beat she just stared, then smirked. "You'll change your mind. Everyone does." I honestly thought that was the end. I was wrong. She stepped closer, crowding my space as if my driveway belonged to her. "I understand you're attached, but let's be reasonable. 30,000. Final offer." "Valerie," I said, firm, "the car isn't on the market. Please step back from my driveway." That's when she reached into her purse and produced a single crisp dollar bill like it had been waiting for its moment. $1, she announced proudly. "Symbolic. You sell it for $1 as a good deed. Karma will reward you tenfold." I stared. "You're serious?" She nodded, completely convinced. I took a breath, trying to process the absurdity. "I'm not selling you my car for $1, or for anything. Please leave." Her smile turned sour. "You may want to rethink that, Mr. Saya Cole. That vehicle violates our HOA aesthetic regulations. Excessive gloss finish, non-neutral color, potentially disruptive exhaust noise." "Valerie," I cut in, "there's nothing in the CC and RS about paint color or gloss." "Oh," I'm sure we can find something, she said coolly, flipping through her clipboard. And if we can't, we'll amend it. That was when I pulled out my phone and started recording. No yelling, no stepping toward her. Just calm. I'm asking you to leave my property. You're trespassing. Her gaze flicked to my phone and back, sharp and angry. Oh, you want to play that game? Brandon tugged her sleeve. Mom, maybe we should… Quiet, Brandon, she snapped. Then, before I could react, she lunged for my car door and yanked the handle. The click against the locked latch cracked through the quiet like a gunshot. Step away from my car, I said. Steady. She whirled, face flushed. You can't tell me what to do. You think you're above the rules. I'll show you how this community handles arrogance. And then she did the unthinkable. She pulled out her phone and dialed 911. I heard the dispatcher faintly. 911, what's your emergency? Valerie's voice transformed. Soft, shaking, theatrical. Yes, I'm at 214 Mapler Crest Drive. There's a man threatening me. He won't let me leave. He's yelling and getting aggressive. I stood there recording, jaw slack. You've got to be kidding me. She looked straight at me and whispered, You should have taken the dollar. 5 minutes later, sirens flooded the neighborhood. Doors opened. Curtains twitched. People stepped outside to watch. I stayed where I was, hands visible, phone still up. 2 cruisers slid in, tires squealing, and 4 officers stepped out with hands hovering near their holsters. Valerie immediately pointed at me, trembling like she was auditioning for daytime TV. That's him. He threatened me. He's dangerous. Sir, keep your hands where we can see them, one officer ordered. I did. Officers, I'm the homeowner. I have everything on video. She trespassed and tried to open my vehicle. My neighbor, Dr. Lucas Park, jogged over from across the street holding his own phone up. I've been recording too. He didn't do anything. She's lying. Valerie spun on him. You're taking his side? You don't even know what happened. I actually do, Lucas said evenly. I saw the whole thing. The officers separated us. One questioned me. Another spoke with Valerie. It didn't take long before they watched my footage. Her voice was clear. The dollar offer, the threats about finding something in the rules, the car door handle, the false 911 call. The lead officer, Sergeant Whitaker, exhaled and rubbed his forehead. Ma'am, he said to Valerie, from what I'm seeing, this man didn't threaten you. You entered his property without permission. Valerie's eyes blew wide. You're taking his side? Do you know who I am? Yes, ma'am, Whitaker replied, flat. And you're about to be charged with filing a false report and trespassing. Her face went crimson. This is ridiculous. Brandon, tell them. Brandon looked away, mortified. Mom, please stop. Then she tried one last desperate move. She grabbed a small decorative rock from my garden and lunged toward the Urus. If I can't have it, no one will. Ma'am, put it down, Officer Ruiz shouted. She didn't. Ruiz tackled her before she could swing. The rock clattered harmlessly onto the driveway. Valerie screamed a full dictionary of curses as they cuffed her and read her rights. When they finally put her in the cruiser, the entire street went silent. Sergeant Whitaker approached me. Mr. Cole, we'll need you to come to the station later for a statement. Of course, I said, glancing at my car, untouched, still blazing under the sun. Whitaker gave me a tired, sympathetic smile. 15 years on the job, he said. Never thought I'd see someone call 911 over a Lamborghini and a dollar bill. Neither did I said. But I didn't realize that call was only the spark. It wouldn't just expose Valerie's obsession. It would peel back corruption, arrogance, and the ugliest side of HOA power. And I was only getting started. The rest of Saturday played out like a bad reality show. Once the police left, with Valerie still screaming about unlawful arrest through the cruiser window, half the neighborhood stood on their lawns pretending they weren't staring. My driveway looked like a film set after a chaos scene. Shoe prints on the concrete, yellow tape fluttering near the curb, and my gold Urus shining like nothing had happened. I stood there with my hands on my hips and just breathed. Lucas walked over, phone still in hand. "You okay, Ethan?" "Define okay," I said. He chuckled. "I've got the whole thing. She's done." I appreciated it, but I also knew Valerie Monroe didn't lose gracefully. People like her didn't become HOA president by being reasonable. They became president by being relentless, manipulative, and convinced they were the law. By noon my phone wouldn't stop. The HOA group chat was a wildfire, blurry photos, wild theories. Some defended Valerie. Others were furious. One message said, "I heard Ethan assaulted her." Another, "Police confirmed she made it up." I turned my phone off. That night I was still processing when the doorbell rang. Sergeant Whitaker stood there, tired but steady. "Evening, Mr. Cole," he said. "Wanted to update you. Please tell me she's not already out." He sighed. "She made bail, but she's facing charges for the false report, trespassing, and attempted property damage. We've got your video, and Dr. Parks matches it." I nodded. "What happens now?" "She'll lawyer up," he said. "Expect noise. Keep your cameras on, and don't engage if she contacts you." I let out a small laugh. "You know she's the HOA president, right?" Whitaker grimaced. "Then brace yourself. Those people love paperwork more than justice." He wasn't wrong. Monday morning, an official envelope was taped to my door with the HOA seal. Lakeside Meadows Homeowners Association Board of Directors. I didn't even need to open it. Retaliation. Inside was a notice of violation. "Dear Mr. Cole, it has come to the board's attention that your vehicle, a Lamborghini Urus gold finish, may be in violation of the HOA's aesthetic and community harmony standards. Specifically, excessive glare and non-neutral color scheme, noise disturbance due to repeated engine revving, public nuisance resulting from police activity at your residence." At the bottom was Valerie's signature, dated 2 days before her arrest. I laughed out loud. She'd predated the notice like she'd been preparing for the war she started. That afternoon I went straight to the county records office, copied every HOA bylaw, and highlighted every relevant section. Just as I expected. Nothing about vehicle color, nothing about gloss, nothing about car noise, only restrictions for lawn equipment and outdoor parties after 10 p.m. So I wrote a formal appeal and mailed it certified to the board, copied the HOA law firm, and copied my own attorney. Then I went further. I created a private Facebook group, Lakeside Transparency. Within hours, half the neighborhood joined. I uploaded my video of Valerie's meltdown and the 911 call footage the police released. I added one caption: "If you've ever been bullied by the HOA, it's time to talk." By nightfall, 67 comments and 22 new messages. Petty fines, threats, fake violations, intimidation. Valerie's little empire started to splinter. 2 days later, an unfamiliar number called. "Mr. Cole," a stern voice said. "This is Greg Monroe, Valerie's husband." I didn't answer. "I want to discuss what happened," he continued. "We can resolve this quietly. No need for court or social media. Your wife called the police on me because I wouldn't sell her my car for $1, I said flatly. Then she tried to damage it. "She's under stress," Greg rushed out. "She wasn't herself. You provoked her." I hit record on my phone. "That's not what the video shows." Silence. Then his voice cooled. "If you don't take those videos down, I'll make sure the HOA hits you with every fine in the book." "Go ahead," I said. "I already have the book." And I hung up. By Thursday, the story escaped the neighborhood. Someone posted the video to Reddit, r/HOA Hell, and it detonated overnight. The title read something like, "HOA Karen calls 911 over a Lamborghini she wanted for $1. It hit 500,000 views in a day. A local station reached out for comment. I declined. They ran it anyway. Valerie's mugshot, hair a mess, blazer grass-stained, was suddenly public. The HOA called an emergency meeting Friday. The bylaws said any resident could attend. So I went. When I walked into the community center, the air felt sharpened. Around 40 homeowners sat whispering or glaring. Valerie's chair at the head of the table was empty, but Greg sat in it, smug and defensive. "Mr. Cole," he said with a forced smile, "we weren't expecting you." "You called a public meeting," I said. "I'm a resident." He straightened. "We're here to address the recent incident." "Which part?" I asked. "The false police report? The trespassing? Or the violation notice she signed before she got arrested?" Murmurs rolled across the room. Greg's jaw tightened. "Watch your tone. The HOA has authority to impose sanctions. And homeowners have the right to remove board members who abuse that authority." I shot back, lifting a printed copy of the bylaws. Section 4.7. Special recall meeting. With signatures from 25% of residents, we can vote to remove any officer. That got everyone's attention. Heads nodded. Someone whispered, "I'll sign." Greg's face drained. "You don't understand what you're starting, Cole." "I understand perfectly," I said. "I'm starting accountability." I walked out to applause. By the next week, the recall petition had over 80 signatures, more than double the requirement. The board scheduled a vote for the following month, but Valerie never made it that far. Through her attorney, she resigned the next day, citing emotional distress and personal safety concerns. When I read her resignation email, I didn't feel victorious. I felt relieved. The neighborhood could breathe again. People waved instead of looking away. Even Brandon stopped by one afternoon to apologize, looking older than he had any right to. "I'm sorry about my mom," he said quietly. "She gets intense." "It's not your fault," I told him. "Just promise me one thing." He looked up. "When you turn 20, don't buy an HOA house." He laughed. Genuine, surprised, and nodded. Still, I knew it wasn't finished. A few days later, Valerie's lawyer sent a thick envelope demanding I stop defamatory activity and remove all content depicting or describing her. My attorney replied with 2 words: truth defense. 2 weeks later, that same lawyer called to negotiate. Valerie would cover my legal fees, pay to clean my driveway where the police tape left residue, and publicly apologize at the next HOA gathering. I agreed on one condition. Her apology would be recorded and printed in the HOA newsletter. When the day came, Valerie stood shaking at the podium, voice cracking. "To my neighbors and to Mr. Cole, I let my position and pride get the better of me. I made false accusations and acted irresponsibly. I'm deeply sorry." The applause afterward wasn't for her. It was for closure. That evening, standing beside my Urus while sunset rolled across its flawless hood, something settled in me. Revenge didn't have to be rage. Sometimes it was truth, exposed, documented, and left to do its work while arrogance collapsed under its own weight. In Lakeside Meadows, that was worth far more than a single dollar. After Valerie stepped down, the neighborhood changed overnight. Streets felt quieter. HOA email spam stopped. Neighbors who'd avoided eye contact for years started waving like friends. It was like we'd all been holding our breath and finally exhaled. But power doesn't vanish in an HOA. It just moves. The board announced an emergency election for president. To my shock and mild horror, someone nominated me. I laughed it off at first. "No chance," I told Lucas as we walked the cul-de-sac one evening. "I just wanted to be left alone with my car. I'm not starting a revolution." Lucas smirked. "Ethan, you're the only one who stood up to Valerie and won. People trust you. They want someone who protects them instead of fining them for trash cans." My inbox proved him right. Residents thanked me, begged for transparency, asked for common sense. Reluctantly, I put my name on the ballot. Election night was chaos in a cardigan. The community center was packed, retirees, young families, dog walkers. Someone brought cupcakes. Someone held a sign that read, "No more Karens in power." Greg Monroe sat in the back, stone-faced. He was still the treasurer, and I could feel his stare all night. Nobody cared about the landscaping report. They were there for one thing, the vote. When my turn came, I kept it simple. "I'm not a politician," I said. "I'm just a guy who wanted to wash his car in peace without being harassed. The HOA should serve homeowners, not intimidate them." If you elect me, this community will run on respect, transparency, and accountability. It wasn't polished. It was honest. The votes weren't close. Ethan Cole, 86%. The applause was loud, real, and a little overwhelming. Valerie's empty seat at the front didn't feel like a throne anymore. My first motion as president was symbolic and necessary. A Transparency and Ethics Committee open to residents, empowered to review any HOA decision before it became official. Passed unanimously. For the first time in memory, people smiled at an HOA meeting. Not everyone did. 2 weeks into my presidency, I received a new report against my Lamborghini Urus for violating community harmony guidelines. Complaint: excessive reflection causing driver distraction. Filed by Greg Monroe. I stared at the paper, then laughed. Some people never learn. I didn't retaliate. I handled it by the book. I called an open board meeting, invited Greg personally, and put the complaint on the public agenda. He arrived irritated, tie crooked, carrying a folder thick enough to qualify as luggage. I opened calmly. Mr. Monroe, thank you for coming. Would you like to explain the basis for your complaint? He cleared his throat. Yes, multiple residents have expressed concern that Mr. Cole's vehicle produces dangerous glare during daylight hours, creating a traffic hazard. Multiple residents? I asked. Name them. He hesitated. They prefer to remain anonymous. Of course, I said. Laughter flickered through the room. Greg, I continued, did you personally observe this alleged hazard? Well, yes, several times. Interesting, I said, smiling, because last week, according to the gate logs, you weren't in the neighborhood between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. on the days you filed the reports. His face drained. I projected a timestamped security image onto the monitor. Greg's SUV rolling past my house at 8:47 p.m. Headlights on, long after sunset. So unless the sun rises at night now, I said, this complaint looks fabricated. The room broke into murmurs and outright laughter. Greg's jaw clenched. You can't just, I cut in. As HOA president, I dismiss this violation as baseless. Further false reports will be treated as harassment under Section 7.2. The meeting ended with polite applause and visible relief. Message received. The era of petty power trips was over. Over the next months, we rebuilt Lakeside Meadows from the inside out. I digitized the HOA records and made them accessible. We rewrote outdated bylaws. We held open Q&A nights instead of closed-door votes. Fines became fair. No more $100 penalties for grass 2 inches too tall. Residents volunteered again. Kids rode bikes without getting scolded. And every Sunday morning when I washed my Lamborghini, someone stopped to chat. Not to complain, but to say hello. Still, I never fully relaxed. Greg wasn't finished. One early spring evening, there was a knock. Greg stood on my porch without a tie, wearing a wrinkled polo, looking like shame and exhaustion had taken turns with him. Ethan, he said quietly, can we talk? I hesitated, then nodded. Sure. He stepped inside, glancing awkwardly at the Urus through the garage window. I wanted to apologize, he said. For Valerie. For everything. I didn't interrupt. She's been in therapy since the court order, he continued. She's different now. She wanted me to tell you she's sorry. She turned the whole neighborhood against you. It wasn't easy for him. Whatever his faults, he loved his wife and was trying to gather the wreckage. I appreciate it, I said carefully. I don't hold grudges. I just want peace here. He nodded. You got that now? At the door he paused. I used to think HOAs kept neighborhoods safe. Now I think they just give the wrong people too much power. I gave a faint smile. Depends who's holding the clipboard. That summer we hosted our first neighborhood barbecue in years, community-wide, not run by Valerie's strict committee. Nearly everyone came. Kids' games, grill contest, and a small car show in the cul-de-sac. Naturally, the Urus became the star. People laughed, took photos, asked about horsepower and handling. Someone joked it was the new HOA mascot. I didn't mind. It wasn't just a car anymore. It was a reminder of what had changed and what was worth protecting. Later, as the sun slid behind the Rockies, I stood with Lucas watching families dance under string lights across the street. "You ever think it'd look like this again?" he asked. "Not in a million years," I said, sipping lemonade. He grinned. "Guess the HOA finally works for the people." "Yeah," I said, amused. For once, the gold paint caught the warm light. Steady, calm, and I realized something. The Urus had survived lies, police, abuse, humiliation. So had I. More importantly, the neighborhood had survived. We'd moved from fear to fairness, from control to cooperation. And if I learned one thing, it was this. Sometimes it takes the loudest engine on the street to expose the quiet corruption hiding behind an HOA logo. In my case, justice didn't roar. It purred, smooth and golden, every time I turned the key. For a few peaceful months, I truly believed the storm had passed. Mornings were normal. Kids played basketball in the cul-de-sac. No one got fined for recycling bins. Weekends didn't come with HOA threats taped to doors. Then the lawyers returned. One quiet Tuesday afternoon, I came home to a thick envelope on my doorstep. Return address: Monroe and Associates, attorneys at law. My spine tightened before I even opened it. Inside was a lawsuit. Valerie Monroe. Yes, that Valerie was suing me for defamation, emotional distress, and loss of reputation. She claimed my recordings, my posts, and my campaign of humiliation caused her trauma and ruined future employment. I laughed, then stopped when I saw the demand, $150,000 in damages. And Greg had signed as co-plaintiff. This time they weren't trying to bully me with paperwork. They were trying to bleed me dry. That night I called my attorney, Rachel Donovan, a no-nonsense property lawyer who'd helped during the original 911 mess. She skimmed the complaint and exhaled hard. "Classic slap suit," she said. "Slap?" I asked. "Strategic lawsuit against public participation," she explained. "It's meant to silence you, not win." "Then they chose the wrong person," I said. She gave a small, sharp smile. "Good. We'll file an anti-slap motion. We'll show everything you posted was true and of public concern." I pulled up my archive. Videos, police records, HOA documents. "You mean the proof I've got terabytes of?" Rachel grinned. "Perfect. We'll bury them in facts." 2 weeks later, I walked into Jefferson County Courthouse for the preliminary hearing. Valerie sat at the plaintiff's table in a gray blazer, trying to look composed. Her hair was shorter, her face tighter, but the smugness was still there. Greg sat beside her, hands clasped, eyes down. Valerie's attorney, Stanford Pierce, gave a polished speech about public humiliation, viral defamation, and emotional cruelty, like he was pitching a streaming drama. Then Rachel stood calm, precise. "Your Honor," she said. "The plaintiff was arrested for filing a false 911 call, trespassing, and attempted property damage. This documented on video. The defendant's posts were factual, not defamatory. And as HOA president, the plaintiff's conduct is a matter of community concern. This case isn't about reputation. It's about revenge." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Do you have exhibits?" Rachel nodded, and I handed over a labeled USB drive. The courtroom watched Valerie's own words, screaming at officers, yanking my door handle, fake crying into 911. Seeing her squirm as her performance echoed off courtroom walls was a strange, clean kind of justice. When the video ended, the judge cleared his throat. "Ms. Monroe, this evidence seems quite clear." Pierce stammered, "Your Honor, the video lacks context." "It appears to show the context rather thoroughly." The judge cut in. Snickers rippled through the room. Valerie's cheeks went red hot. After a short recess, the judge ruled for us. Anti-slap granted, lawsuit dismissed with prejudice. Valerie ordered to pay my legal fees. Less than 2 hours. Done. Outside, reporters crowded in. I gave one statement. I didn't win today. The truth did. But victory has an aftershock. That night, the local news ran. Former HOA president loses $150,000 lawsuit over viral Lamborghini dispute. The video surged again. By the weekend, for million views, the internet went feral. Valerie became a meme template. Ironically, that was when Greg knocked again. He looked hollowed out. "Ethan," he said quietly, "please make it stop. The attention, the photos, the jokes." Valerie's barely eating. I folded my arms. She tried to destroy me. Then she dragged me to court. He nodded miserably. "I know. I can't defend her. But maybe you could take down the posts." "The internet doesn't forget," I said, tired. "Even if I delete everything, it's everywhere now. You should have thought about that before calling 911 over a car." For the first time, Greg didn't argue. He nodded, whispered thanks, and walked away. It was the last time I saw him. In the months after, I threw myself into improving the HOA. We installed body cameras for compliance officers, created a digital mediation portal, and wrote a homeowner bill of rights. The scandal turned Lakeside Meadows into an internet legend, the HOA that reformed itself. Journalists called. People from other states asked for our bylaws. Membership applications tripled. People wanted to live here. One afternoon, I was buried in paperwork at my dining table when another knock came. Officer Dana Ruiz, the same officer who'd tackled Valerie, stood there with a small smile. "President Cole," she said, "heard the good news. Case closed." "Couldn't have done it without the footage," I said. She grinned. "We still use that clip in training. How to handle HOA emergencies without losing your sanity." We laughed, and her eyes flicked toward the garage. "That the famous Lamborghini?" I nodded. "You ever think about trading it in?" she teased. "After everything this car's been through?" I said. "Never." That evening I drove the Urus along the winding mountain roads outside Cedar Grove. The sunset lit the gold paint like molten metal, and for the first time in a long time, I felt light. One ridiculous $1 offer had changed everything. My neighborhood, my reputation, my sense of justice. At the ridge overlooking the valley, my phone buzzed. The HOA group chat was alive again. Someone posted a meme. A Lamborghini under police lights with the caption, "When HOA Karen tries to fine you, but you have receipts." I laughed so hard I almost missed my turn. Back home, I parked, stepped out, and stood under the porch light staring at the Urus. I used to think the car was a trophy. Now it was proof. Proof that no amount of gossip, false authority, or arrogance could erase truth. Tires crunched on gravel behind me. Lucas walked by with his dog. "Another quiet night in paradise," he joked. "For once," I said. He grinned. "You might be the only HOA president in history who became a hero instead of a villain." I smiled. "Give it time. Someone will find a reason to hate me." Lucas laughed and waved as he kept walking. I looked back at the Urus glowing under the garage light. For the first time since it started, I didn't see conflict. I saw balance. The HOA had learned humility. The neighborhood had learned unity. And I'd learned that standing your ground, even against a clipboard-wielding Karen, can spark real change. Because sometimes peace doesn't come from staying quiet. It comes from refusing to sell your soul or your car for one single dollar. 6 months after the lawsuit, Lakeside Meadows finally felt stable. Lawns trimmed, sidewalks calm. No more midnight violations, taped to doors. Under my leadership, the HOA had become what it was supposed to be. Support, not a weapon. We built a community garden, swapped pointless compliance patrols for neighborhood BBQs, and launched an online portal where residents could vote on decisions. Transparency wasn't a slogan, it was policy. Then an official white envelope arrived, stamped with the seal of the Colorado Department of Community Associations. An audit notice. Routine financial and ethical review due to recent exposure and leadership changes. I leaned back, rubbing my temples. "Of course," I muttered. "Can't have 6 months of peace." At the next board meeting, uneasy murmurs filled the room. Mark Ellison, our vice president, adjusted his glasses. It's probably standard. We're clean. We should be, I said. But we inherited years of records from Valerie. And she never did anything by the book. Silence. The auditors arrived Monday, 2 suits with clipboards and tablets. Mr. Blake, tall, dry humor, eyes that missed nothing, introduced himself with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. His partner, Miss Wynne, looked like she could smell forged receipts from across the room. They set up in the HOA office and tore through 5 years of records. Contracts, budgets, fines, landscaping invoices. By day 3, Blake called me in and gestured to a stack of files. Mr. Cole, do you know why your HOA paid nearly $40,000 to a company called Green Rest Maintenance LLC last year? That was Valerie's lawn service, I said, before I took over. Why? He turned his tablet toward me. Because Green Rest doesn't exist. It's a shell company. Registered address is a P.O. box. Contact listed as A.G. Monroe. I blinked. Greg Monroe. Miss Wynne nodded, tapping her pen. It appears the previous president authorized multiple payments to her husband's company for services never performed. That's embezzlement, Blake added. For a moment I couldn't speak. I expected incompetence, not theft. How bad? I asked. Preliminary estimate, Blake said. Around $87,000 misappropriated over 3 years. We'll refer this to the Attorney General. I stared at the numbers, heat rising under my calm. The Monroes hadn't just abused power. They'd turned the HOA into their personal ATM. That night I called Rachel again. When I told her, she wasn't surprised. I figured there was more, she said. Cooperate fully and brace yourself. When this goes public, they'll resurface. 2 days later, Greg showed up at the HOA office looking desperate, glancing nervously at the auditors through the glass. Ethan, we need to talk. I crossed my arms. About what? The fake lawn company? Or the missing 87 grand? He winced. I didn't know Valerie was still moving money after the lawsuit. She said she stopped. You signed the checks, I said flatly. I trusted my wife. He snapped, then lowered his voice. She's not well. She thought she could borrow from the HOA to pay legal fees and put it back later. Except she didn't, I said. He swallowed hard. If this goes criminal, she's finished. Please, Ethan, talk to the auditors. She's been through enough. You don't have to ruin her life. I held his gaze. She ruined her own life, Greg. The rest of us are cleaning up what she did. He left without another word. The audit finished the next week, and the results were brutal. Misused funds, violations of nonprofit governance laws, falsified maintenance reports. The HOA's present looked cleaner than ever, but the past was exposed like an infected wound. The Attorney General opened an investigation. Subpoenas went out. Local headlines hit every station. Former HOA president and husband under investigation for fraud and embezzlement. My phone lit up with shock, relief, even apologies. One neighbor texted, I can't believe she was scamming us. Another, so that's why the landscaping never got done. One message stopped me cold. Brandon Monroe. Mr. Cole, I just wanted to say thank you for doing what's right. My parents needed to be stopped. I'm sorry for what happened back then. I stared at it for a long time, then replied, You don't have to apologize, Brandon. Sometimes the truth hurts people, but it saves others. The next month, Valerie resurfaced in court. Seeing her walk in that morning stuck with me. No pink blazer, no pearls. Plain gray suit, hair pulled back, eyes hollow. The prosecutor laid out everything. Fake contracts, illegal payments, altered bank records. Greg sat beside her, pale and defeated. When Valerie spoke, she didn't fight. She just said, I thought I was helping. I didn't know how deep I'd gone. The judge didn't buy it. Valerie got 18 months of probation, community service, and restitution. Every dollar returned to the association. Greg got 6 months probation and a heavy fine. Not prison, but justice. Walking out into bright Colorado sun, I felt something I hadn't felt since the sirens first tore down my street. Closure. Back in Lakeside Meadows, Residents voted to rename the clubhouse to reflect our new spirit. They called it the Fairway. We framed the final audit report in the lobby, not as a trophy, but as a reminder of what happens when people stop paying attention. At the dedication, Lucas nudged me. Never thought we'd celebrate an HOA audit. I laughed. Welcome to 2025. Even Officer Ruiz showed up, sipping lemonade by the buffet. Hard to believe this started with a $1 offer, she said. Yeah, I replied. The most expensive dollar in Colorado history. She chuckled. And one of the loudest. That night, after everyone left, I stood in my driveway and looked at the Urus glinting under streetlights. People, policies, the whole neighborhood had changed, but the car sat exactly as it always had. Untouched, unapologetic, a silent witness. I ran my hand along the hood and murmured, half to myself, half to it. We made it, didn't we? The engine clicked as it cooled like an answer. For the first time, I didn't feel like the guy with the flashy car. I felt like someone who'd earned peace the hard way, and in a neighborhood once ruled by fear, that was worth more than any luxury vehicle. Because sometimes the real engine of change isn't horsepower. It's honesty. By early summer, Lakeside Meadows settled into a kind of golden rhythm. Green lawns, friendly faces, HOA meetings that meant free coffee and honest debate. Maybe even a raffle for a gas card. Valerie and Greg were gone, paying restitution from a small rental across town. The new board ran smoothly. Audits came back clean. We became a model association. Other HOAs even invited us to speak about reforms, which still made me laugh. I was just a guy who wanted to wash his Lamborghini without getting harassed. It was peaceful. Too peaceful. And if HOA life taught me anything, it's that peace never lasts. It started with a drone. One bright Saturday morning, while I waxed the Urus, a buzzing machine appeared above my driveway. The gold paint reflected the sun like liquid fire. At first I assumed someone was admiring it from above, until it dropped lower. Too low. 15 feet over my garage roof, hovering, tilting, tracking. Hey! I shouted. Who's flying that? Nothing. The drone followed me around the car, over the driveway, even toward the backyard. I pulled out my phone and started recording. If you're filming me, identify yourself. A minute later, it zipped off toward the park across the street. I thought it was over. It wasn't. The next morning, I woke up to 200 notifications. Someone had uploaded a video titled, HOA President Shows Off His $300,000 Lamborghini While Fining Neighbors for Grass Height. Aerial shots of me cleaning the Urus were spliced with dramatic music and fake HOA complaint screenshots. The description accused me of hypocrisy, corruption, and embezzling HOA fees to buy a supercar. It had 400 views overnight. By noon, 100,000. Next day, 500,000. The comments were a bloodbath. Typical HOA tyrant. We got duped. He's the real villain. My phone wouldn't stop. Journalists called again. Even Reddit revived the thread, debating whether I'd become the problem. Lucas showed up that evening, shaking his head. They're eating you alive. I scrolled, jaw tight. And none of it is true. Who posted it? Neighborhood watchdog. I zoomed in on their blurry profile image of a cul-de-sac at sunset. Bio. Exposing corruption in suburban America. Lucas frowned. Smear campaign. I nodded slowly. And I think I know who's behind it. 3 days later, my suspicion got confirmation. The HOA community email received an anonymous tip. A digital receipt for a new drone purchase under the name Gregory Monroe. It didn't take Sherlock to connect it. Greg was furious about the audit exposure and Valerie's conviction, and he wanted to rewrite the story with me as the villain. I met with Rachel again. Defamation? Harassment? Invasion of privacy, she said. We can nail him, but if we sue, it'll explode bigger online. So what do we do? She leaned back. Fight fire with sunlight. You have receipts. Show them. I sat with that for a long time. I didn't want another viral circus, but letting lies spread felt worse. That night, I sat at my desk and hit record. The video was plain. No edits, no music. Just me in front of my garage, the gold Urus behind me. "Hi," I began. "My name is Ethan Cole. I'm the president of the Lakeside Meadows HOA, the same one you've probably seen in that viral video accusing me of corruption. I'm gonna set the record straight." I laid it all out. Valerie's false 911 call, the lawsuit, the audit, the reforms, proof my company existed long before the HOA ever mattered to me. I held up the audit report, Valerie's conviction notice, and showed our open budget system. "Everything I own was earned through 15 years in cybersecurity," I said. "I don't take a dollar from HOA funds. Every resident has access to our accounts. Go look." And at the end, one sentence slipped out. Unplanned. Honest. I didn't buy a Lamborghini to show off. I bought it to remind myself that integrity is the only luxury worth keeping. Then I uploaded it. Within 24 hours, 1 million views. By day 3, mainstream outlets picked it up, this time with a different tone. HOA president fires back with proof. Drone smear exposed as fake. From villain to victor. The comments flipped completely. People respected the receipts. Greg denied involvement, of course. But local police traced the drone registration to him and found the raw footage on his computer. The lie collapsed. He was fined for harassment and violating privacy laws. Valerie, still on probation, issued a written apology as part of her plea deal. For once, the internet didn't pick cruelty. Picked decency. That fall, Lakeside Meadows went viral again, but for the right reasons. We received a state award for community reform, and I got invited to speak at the Colorado Association of Homeowners Conference in Denver. I nearly refused until Lucas talked me into it. "You survived HOA hell," he said. "You might as well teach people how not to end up there." So I stood on stage in front of 200 board members, our neighborhood on a screen behind me. "I used to think HOA problems came from bad rules," I told them. "But the truth is they come from bad people using good rules to control others. Change the people and you change everything." The room erupted. For the first time, HOA didn't sound like a curse. A week later, I came home late, parked the Urus, and looked down the quiet street. Kids' bikes on lawns, porch lights glowing, someone grilling in the distance. Real peace. I leaned against the car, remembering how it began. One entitled woman, one ridiculous offer, one desperate 911 call. Standing in the exact spot where police lights once blinded me, I felt only calm. Lucas walked by with his dog and lifted a hand. "Hey, President Cole. What's next for famous Lakeside Meadows?" I smiled. "Hopefully nothing worth filming." He laughed. "No promises." Later that night, I saw a new post in the HOA group. "To our HOA president, thank you for standing your ground. You didn't just clean up a neighborhood. You rebuilt a community." I shut my phone off and looked at the Lamborghini one more time. It wasn't a trophy now. It was a symbol of what happens when you don't back down, even when the whole world points a camera at you. In the end, the lesson was simple and hard-earned. In a world full of noise, integrity speaks loudest. And sometimes all it takes to quiet the chaos is one man, his car, and the courage to tell the truth. Winter arrived in Cedar Grove with crisp mornings and still evenings, the kind that slowed even HOA boards down. After the viral storm, I started believing Lakeside Meadows had finally found its stride. The newsletters stayed friendly. Complaints disappeared. No one nitpicked fences or trash cans for nearly 4 months. It felt almost unnatural. That calm held until the annual HOA election season. In most neighborhoods, elections were forgettable. In ours, they'd become an event, coffee cups, whispered opinions, people showing up for free donuts. 2 board seats were open. And to everyone's surprise, a challenger filed to run for HOA president against me. The name made me blink twice. Mark Ellison. My vice president. My ally. The man who helped rewrite bylaws, navigate the audit, push reforms. I sat staring at the nomination list. Lucas broke the silence. "Didn't he say last month he was too tired to host the barbecue?" "Yeah," I said, apparently not too tired to run for my seat. At first I assumed misunderstanding. But the next morning, Mark posted in the neighborhood group, It's time for fresh leadership in Lakeside Meadows. He wrote about balance, ego, and the risk of turning the community into a personal brand. He didn't say my name, but he didn't need to. Comments poured in. Some defended me. Others agreed it was too focused on one guy and his car, that I'd made us go viral twice. I leaned back, rubbing my temples. Here we go. That evening I knocked on Mark's door. He opened with a cautious smile, like he'd been waiting for this. "Ethan," he said. "I hoped we'd talk before it got awkward." "Too late," I replied calmly. "You could have told me directly." He sighed. "It's not personal. You've done a lot of good. But people are starting to think Lakeside Meadows revolves around you. The videos, the interviews, the reputation, it's too much. So the fix is pushing me out." He shook his head. "No. The fix is reminding everyone this isn't a one-man show." Mark wasn't arrogant. He was practical, careful, proud in a quiet way. Maybe he truly believed it. "All right," I said at last. "You want a fair election? Let's give them one." The campaign stayed civil at first. Flyers appeared. Online debates lit up. Local news sniffed around again because apparently HOA president versus reform ally was irresistible. I refused interviews this time. I didn't want another spectacle. I stuck to my record. Budget summaries, direct answers, steady reminders of how far we'd come. Mark leaned into fresh start, hosting casual park meetups and promising less media and more normal life. Then anonymous accounts started stirring trouble again. Claims I used HOA funds for YouTube promotion, took sponsorships, cashed in on appearances. Pure lies. Lucas burst into my kitchen one night, waving his phone. "Whoever's behind this is feeding Mark's campaign." "Maybe not Mark," I said. "But someone wants me off the board." And it worked. Community polls showed my support slipping from 80% to 55%. A week before the vote, we held a candidate forum at the clubhouse. Packed. Standing room only. Tension you could chew. Mrs. Hanley from 14B moderated. 5 minutes each for opening statements. Mark went first, smooth, confident. "Ethan Cole has done tremendous work cleaning up this HOA. But now we need stability. Less drama. Less attention. It's time for Lakeside Meadows to be known for peace, not controversy." Polite applause. Then I stepped up, hands loose, scanning faces. Neighbors who'd stood with me in the worst moments. When I moved here, I wanted peace. Instead, I fought lies, corruption, and intimidation. Not for attention, because staying silent would have cost us our community. I let that hang. You remember what this used to feel like? Fear, division, one person controlling everyone else. We fought our way out of that together. Mark's right, we need calm. But calm doesn't come from forgetting the past. It comes from remembering why we changed. I looked out at the room. I'm not here to be famous. I'm here to make sure nobody ever calls 911 on a neighbor again for doing nothing wrong. Silence. Then applause. Louder and longer than I expected. I glanced at Mark. He gave a small nod of respect. Election day arrived cold and bright. Residents lined up outside the clubhouse, chatting and sipping coffee, filling out paper ballots for the first time in years. I stayed home, washing the Urus like it was any ordinary Saturday. Lucas stopped by, hands in his jacket pockets. "You nervous?" "Not really," I said. "If they want someone else, that's their right." He laughed. "You're lying." I smiled. "Maybe a little." That evening, the results went up online. I waited for the page to fully load. Ethan Cole. Mark Ellison. I leaned back and let out a slow breath. A minute later, Lucas texted, "Congrats, Mr. President again. Drinks on me tonight." I wrote back, "Make it lemonade." At the next meeting, I offered Mark my hand first. "No hard feelings." He shook it firmly. "None. You won fair. And for what it's worth, I'm glad the HOA still trusts you." "Then let's keep it that way," I said. We did. In the months after, we worked better than before. Maybe the election cleared the air, maybe we both grew up a little. A few weeks later, on another calm Saturday morning, I was back where it started, Driveway, bucket, soap, sunlight on gold paint. Lucas walked past with coffee. Another year, huh? Still president. Still shiny car. Still no peace. I grinned. The HOA needs something to gossip about. He laughed. You ever think about stepping down someday? Someday, I said, rinsing the hood. But not until I'm sure this neighborhood can survive without someone watching the watchers. Water rippled over the Urus, throwing gold light everywhere. For the first time in years, it didn't feel like a burden. It felt like armor. Spring came around again, and I thought I'd seen every flavor of suburban insanity. False 911 calls, lawsuits, audits, smear campaigns. But the most dangerous fight wasn't going to come from outside the HOA. It was going to come from inside the system itself. After the election, I doubled down on finishing what we started. Digitizing every remaining record, updating the legal charter, finalizing our Community Rights Act to protect homeowners from arbitrary fines. It was the kind of reform other HOAs could copy. And that was exactly the issue. Once word spread that Lakeside Meadows might share our policies publicly, a few old guard leaders from nearby communities started whispering. They claimed we were undermining board authority and setting a dangerous precedent. Within weeks, I received a polite, pointed letter from the regional HOA council inviting me to a review hearing about our reforms. I'd learned enough by now. Invitation could mean warning. The hearing took place in a downtown conference room filled with suits, the type who could turn mailbox paint into a constitutional crisis. The chair, Diane Holt, smiled thinly as I sat down. Mr. Cole, Lakeside Meadows has become quite the topic lately. Viral videos, legal victories, reforms. You've built quite a reputation. I'll take that as a compliment, I said. Her smile didn't budge. Let's discuss your proposed Community Rights Act. You understand distributing such a document to other associations without regional approval could be seen as interference. Interference, I repeated. I'm not forcing anyone. I'm sharing what worked. Transparency, accountability,